The Galactic Council chamber filled with a nervous energy that made the air itself feel thick and heavy. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their assigned seats, but many could not stay still. Claws tapped against metal surfaces. Tentacles twisted around themselves. Even the normally calm ethereals flickered between colors faster than usual. Ambassador Zefka of the Viridian Collective stood at the central podium, her green skin pale with fear. Her hands shook as she held the data tablet containing the intelligence reports. She had been chosen for this presentation because she was known for her steady voice and clear thinking. Today neither served her well. "Council members," she began, her voice cracking slightly. "We gather today to discuss a threat that grows stronger with each passing solar cycle. The humans continue to expand into sectors we thought were safe from their reach." A murmur ran through the chamber. The Zephyrian delegates' feathers stood on end. The crystalline Nexari clicked and chimed in their language of worry. The massive Cordon representative shifted his bulk, making the floor vibrate. Zefka touched a control on her podium. A holographic display showed the known galaxy, with human territory marked in red. The red areas had grown significantly since the last such presentation. "When we first encountered humanity 10 cycles ago, we thought we understood them," she continued. "Yes, they were violent. Yes, they fought with a persistence that seemed almost insane. But we believed we could contain them." The display zoomed in on the Outer Rim territories. Several star systems that had been marked as neutral just months before now showed human settlements. "We were wrong," Zefka said quietly. "We have learned that human military doctrine operates on principles that defy all known rules of civilized warfare. Where other species retreat when faced with superior numbers, humans attack. Where others surrender when their ships are damaged, humans ram their vessels into enemy craft. Where others use proper military equipment, humans turn any object into a weapon." Council member Vorth of the Hegemony leaned forward. His scarred face showed the kind of confidence that came from leading the galaxy's most feared military force. "Ambassador, with respect, we have dealt with violent species before. The humans may be persistent, but they can be contained like any other threat." Zefka's expression grew even more troubled. "Council member Vorth, I wish that were true, but our intelligence indicates something far worse than we previously understood." The holographic display changed to show military engagement records. Battle after battle played out in miniature above the podium. In each one, human forces fought with tactics that made seasoned military advisors shake their heads in disbelief. In the Battle of Kepler Station, human forces continued fighting even when their ships lost life support. They sealed themselves in spacesuits and kept manning their weapons until they won. In the Siege of Proxima Colony, human ground forces held their position for 6 months without resupply, eating local plants and drinking recycled water. When relief finally arrived, they were still fighting. The crystal delegate Nexus Prime spoke in tones that sounded like breaking glass. "This persistence, while unusual, is still within the realm of conventional military strategy." "That's what we thought too," Zefka replied. "Until we received this." The display showed a new set of documents marked with the highest classification symbols. These intelligence reports come from deep within human space. They detail military units that operate outside even the already incomprehensible human military doctrine. She pressed another control. The display showed fragmentary records of military operations that seemed impossible. Pirates who had terrorized the Outer Rim for decades, gone without a trace. Enemy installations destroyed from the inside with no sign of how attackers entered. High-value targets eliminated in the middle of the most secure facilities in the galaxy, with security systems showing no breach. Council member Vorth scoffed. "Propaganda. Humans spreading stories to make themselves seem more dangerous than they are." Zefka turned to face him directly. "These reports don't come from human sources, Council member. They come from the survivors of these incidents. Pirates who found their comrades dead in locked rooms, security chiefs who watched impossible infiltrations on their own cameras, military commanders who saw their most secure bases penetrated without any explanation." The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background hum of the life support system seemed quieter. The reports speak of human soldiers who move like shadows through enemy territory. They describe attacks so precisely planned that civilians are never harmed, but targets are eliminated with absolute certainty. They tell of infiltrations that security experts insist were impossible, yet somehow happened. The ethereal representative pulsed a deep purple color that meant extreme concern. What are you suggesting, Ambassador? Zefka looked around the chamber at the dozens of species represented there. Each one had their own military traditions, their own understanding of warfare. None of them had prepared for what the humans represented. I am suggesting that what we have seen of human military capability so far may not be their full strength. The battles we have witnessed, the tactics that already terrify us, may be just what humans consider normal military operations. She paused to let that sink in. Intelligence indicates that humans maintain military units that operate by different rules entirely, units that the humans themselves refer to as special forces. We have no clear understanding of their training, their equipment, or their methods. What we do know is that every time these units have been deployed, the results have been absolute. Council Member Vorth stood up, his massive frame towering over his seat. Even if this is true, what do you propose we do? Hide in our home systems? Abandon entire sectors of space? I propose we consider very carefully how we interact with humanity going forward, Zefka replied. Because if these reports are accurate, if humans do possess military capabilities beyond what we have already seen, then every decision we make regarding them could determine whether our species survive the next decade. The holographic display showed one final image, a star map of human expansion over the past 10 cycles. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Humanity was not expanding randomly, they were moving systematically, securing strategic positions and resources with military precision. The humans are not just another aggressive species, Zefka concluded. They are something the galaxy has never encountered before. They fight wars like they are solving mathematical problems. They approach conflict with a cold efficiency that suggests they have studied warfare in ways we cannot understand. She looked directly at each major delegate in turn. And if the intelligence about their special forces is correct, then what we fear about human conventional military power is nothing compared to what they are truly capable of. We may discover that humanity has been showing restraint in their previous conflicts, that the violence we have already witnessed is them being careful. The chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates spoke rapidly in dozens of languages. Some called for immediate military preparation. Others suggested diplomatic outreach. A few suggested retreat to the furthest edges of known space. Through it all, Zefka remained at the podium, watching the chaos she had unleashed with her words. She thought about the classified reports locked in the Council's deepest vaults. Reports of human military units that seemed to appear and disappear at will. Reports of enemy forces that simply vanished overnight, leaving no trace of what had happened to them. The galaxy had learned to fear human persistence, human ruthlessness, human willingness to turn any situation into a weapon. But those were just the humans they could see, the ones who fought conventional battles according to recognizable military doctrine. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, other humans moved according to rules that no other species understood. And the galaxy was about to learn that everything they feared about humanity so far had been just the beginning. As the debate raged around her, Zefka wondered if they were already being watched by these shadow soldiers. If human special forces were already in position, already gathering intelligence, already preparing for conflicts that the galaxy didn't even know were coming. The thought made her skin turn an even paler shade of green. Because if the humans were capable of operations that left no evidence, how would anyone know if they were already under attack until it was far too late to do anything about it? The Galactic Council would spend the next several hours debating their response to the human threat. They would argue about military preparations and diplomatic approaches. They would discuss strategies for containment and plans for defense. None of them would consider the possibility that their debates were pointless, that decisions about their future were being made by forces they could not see, operating according to principles they could not understand, in ways that rendered all their careful planning irrelevant. The galaxy feared humanity, but it was about to learn that fear was a luxury they could no longer afford. The luxury cruise ship Stellar Harmony had been the pride of the Galactic Tourism Federation. Built to carry diplomats and dignitaries in comfort across the galaxy, it represented the best of interspecies cooperation. Its gleaming hull reflected starlight as it traveled the safe routes between civilized systems. That safety had been an illusion. Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian Navy paced the bridge of his patrol vessel, his feathers flat against his head in distress. 3 days ago, the Stellar Harmony had entered the Void Nebula on what should have been a routine passenger cruise. The nebula was a popular tourist destination because of its beautiful purple and gold gas clouds. It was also the hunting ground of the Crimson Tide. "Any word from the rescue fleet?" he asked his communications officer. "Still 4 days out, sir," came the reply. "The nearest battle group is engaged in exercises in the Sigma sector. They cannot break off without leaving the border undefended." Veltar's claws scraped against the metal railing. The Crimson Tide pirates were known throughout the galaxy for their cruelty. They took ships not for ransom but for sport. They kept prisoners alive just long enough to broadcast their suffering across subspace frequencies, terrorizing other potential victims. More importantly, they never left survivors. On his tactical display, Veltar could see the last known position of the Stellar Harmony deep within the nebula. The ship carried 12 ambassadors from major council species, including the primary peace negotiators who were working to prevent a brewing conflict between the Cordon Empire and the Nexari Collective. Their deaths would likely trigger the very war they had been trying to prevent. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting debris fields on the edge of the nebula. It looks like the remains of several pirate vessels." Veltar rushed to the sensor station. The readings were confusing. Pieces of ships scattered across several light minutes of space, but no energy signatures indicating a battle. No weapon residue. No radiation traces that would suggest the use of conventional military technology. "How long ago did this happen?" he asked. "Based on the debris dispersal pattern, maybe 6 hours ago, sir." That was impossible. No Galactic Council forces were anywhere near the nebula. The human territories were on the far side of the galaxy. There were no military vessels in the area capable of engaging an entire pirate fleet. "Sir, incoming transmission from Council Central Command," his communications officer announced. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Thesic, a four-armed Corvani whose scarred carapace spoke of decades of military service. The Admiral looked troubled. "Captain Veltar, you are to maintain your current position and observe only. Under no circumstances are you to enter the Void Nebula. Sir, with respect, the Stellar Harmony's passengers include—" "I am aware of who they include, Captain," the Admiral interrupted. "I am also aware that the situation has been handled." Veltar's feathers stood up in confusion. "Handled, sir? By whom? We have no forces in the area." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, did you receive any reports of human vessels in your sector?" "No, sir. The nearest human territory is over 50 parsecs away. It would take their fastest ships at least 2 weeks to reach this position." "That's what we thought as well." The Admiral's expression grew more troubled. 3 hours ago, the Council received a communication from Earth's military liaison. The message was brief. It said, "Their package delivered. Maintain radio silence." Veltar stared at the screen. "Package delivered? What package? We never contacted Earth about this situation." "We didn't," the Admiral confirmed. "According to our records, the last official communication with Earth's military was over a month ago regarding trade route security. There was no distress call sent to human space. No request for assistance. No mention of the Stellar Harmony or its passengers. The implications of that hit Veltar like a physical blow. "Sir, are you saying that the humans knew about the pirate attack before we told them?" "I'm saying that 18 hours after the Stellar Harmony disappeared, and 12 hours before our fastest rescue ships could even begin to respond, someone dealt with the entire Crimson Tide fleet." The Admiral paused. "And that someone appears to have been human." Veltar looked back at his sensor readings. The debris fields made more sense now, but also less sense. "Sir, if humans engage the pirates, where are their ships? Where are the battle signs? Our sensors show no indication of human technology in the area." "That's exactly what troubles me, Captain." Before Veltar could respond, his sensor operator called out excitedly, "Sir, contact on long-range sensors." It's the Stellar Harmony." The main screen switched to show the luxury cruise ship drifting at the edge of the nebula. Its hull showed no damage. Its lights were on. It appeared to be completely intact. "Life signs?" Veltar asked quickly. "Scanning?" "Sir, I'm reading normal life support throughout the ship. Multiple biosignatures in what appears to be the main dining hall. All readings indicate the passengers and crew are alive and unharmed." Veltar turned back to Admiral Thesic on the communication screen. "Sir, permission to board and investigate?" The Admiral shook his head slowly. "Negative, Captain. You will wait for the official rescue fleet to arrive. You will observe and report only. Under no circumstances are you to board that vessel or enter the nebula. But sir, those are direct orders from the Council itself, Captain. The stellar harmony is to be treated as a potential hazard until proper investigation can be conducted. The transmission ended, leaving Veltar staring at the image of the cruise ship on his screen. It looked perfectly normal, peaceful even, but somehow that made it more terrifying than if it had been a smoking wreck. His communications officer broke the silence. Sir, we're receiving a standard automated distress beacon from the stellar harmony. It's requesting immediate assistance for passengers and crew. How long has it been broadcasting? According to the signal data, it started transmitting exactly 18 hours ago, sir. The same time the human response had been sent to the Council. Veltar felt his feathers flatten against his head again. Whatever had happened in that nebula, the timing was too precise to be coincidence. Over the next several hours, Veltar's ship maintained position and monitored the situation. The stellar harmony continued drifting peacefully at the nebula's edge. Its passengers sent cheerful messages to the Council, reporting that they were safe and grateful to be rescued from the pirates who had attacked them. But when asked about their rescue, the passengers gave contradictory accounts. Some said they had been freed by Galactic Council forces. Others insisted they had overpowered the pirates themselves. A few claimed they couldn't remember the rescue at all, only that they had been prisoners one moment and free the next. None of them mentioned humans. When pressed for details about their captivity, the passengers described the pirate attack clearly enough. The Crimson Tide had boarded their ship using conventional techniques. They had been held in the cargo holds while the pirates searched for valuables and prepared to begin their usual brutal entertainment. But their accounts of the rescue were fragmented and confused. They remembered bright lights and sudden silence. They recalled their captors simply being gone one moment, with no explanation of where they had went or how they had been removed. Most disturbing of all, they seemed oddly calm about the entire experience. Passengers who should have been traumatized by their encounter with the galaxy's most feared pirates spoke about their ordeal as if it had been a minor inconvenience. When the official rescue fleet finally arrived 4 days later, they found the stellar harmony exactly as Veltar had reported it. The passengers were healthy, unharmed, and eager to continue their diplomatic missions. The rescue ships also found what remained of the Crimson Tide fleet scattered throughout the nebula. 17 pirate vessels had been reduced to debris fields with surgical precision. Each ship had been disabled in exactly the way needed to ensure that any prisoners aboard would survive, while making certain that none of the pirates could escape. The investigation teams found no trace of whatever force had destroyed the pirate fleet. No weapon signatures, no foreign technology, no evidence of the attackers. The pirates had simply ceased to exist as an organized force, leaving behind only the evidence that they had once been there. Most unsettling was the discovery that the pirates' own security recordings had been carefully edited. Hours of footage were missing from the critical time period, replaced with static that contained no useful information. Whoever had eliminated the Crimson Tide had also ensured that no record remained of how they had done it. The official report concluded that the stellar harmony had been rescued by an unidentified force using unknown methods. The destruction of the Crimson Tide fleet was attributed to circumstances under investigation. The fact that no other military units had been in the area was noted but not explained. Captain Veltar submitted his own report, detailing the strange timeline and the impossible precision of the operation. He noted that whoever had conducted the rescue had possessed perfect intelligence about the situation, superior technology, and the ability to operate completely undetected in one of the most surveilled regions of space. His report was classified at the highest levels and sealed in the Council's most secure archive. Ambassador Kethavar of the Nexari Collective sat in the medical bay of the Council investigation ship, his crystalline form still flickering with the nervous energy patterns that had plagued him since his rescue from the stellar harmony. The ship's chief medical officer, a gentle ethereal named Dr. Loomis, had been trying to help him process his memories of the incident for 3 days. Ambassador, I know this is difficult, but the Council needs to understand what happened during your captivity, Dr. Loomis said, her form glowing a soothing blue-green. You mentioned seeing your rescuers. Can you describe them again? Kethavar's crystal facets shifted to a deep purple, the color of troubled thoughts. I keep telling you, Doctor, what I saw was impossible. The human mind must work differently than ours because what I witnessed defies all logic. Tell me anyway. Sometimes impossible things turn out to be possible after all. The ambassador's form flickered through several color patterns before settling on a dull amber. The pirates had locked us in the main cargo hold. 47 passengers and crew members guarded by at least 20 armed pirates. The doors were sealed. The security systems were active and there were guards posted outside. Dr. Loomis nodded encouragingly. And then? The lights went out. Not gradually, not from a power failure. They just stopped working. But it wasn't complete darkness. There was this strange quality to the shadows, like they were moving independently of any light source. Kethavar paused, his colors shifting to a nervous yellow. That's when I saw them, shapes moving through the darkness. At first I thought they were more pirates, but they moved wrong. Too fluid, too quiet. They seemed to flow from shadow to shadow like liquid. How many of them were there? I don't know. I could never see more than one or two at a time, but I had the sense there were more. Many more. They appeared and disappeared so quickly that counting them was impossible. Dr. Loomis made notes on her tablet. What happened to the guards? That's the part that makes no sense, Kethavar said, his form brightening slightly as if the memory brought some relief mixed with terror. I heard no weapon fire, no screams, no sounds of struggle. One moment the pirates were there, shouting orders and threatening us. The next moment they were just gone. Gone how? I mean gone, Doctor. Not dead on the floor, not unconscious, not tied up. Simply not there anymore, like they had never existed at all. Dr. Loomis frowned, which caused her form to pulse a concerned orange. Ambassador, trauma can sometimes affect memory formation. Are you certain? Doctor, I may be traumatized, but my memory crystals don't lie. Kethavar gestured to the natural data storage organs that all Nexari possessed. I can replay exactly what I observed. Would you like me to project it? Please. Kethavar's form darkened as he accessed his memory storage. A holographic image appeared above his head, showing the cargo hold as he had seen it. The projection was crystal clear, with the perfect recall that only Nexari witnesses could provide. The scene showed the passengers huddled together while armed pirates stood guard. Then, as Kethavar had described, the lights failed. In the strange half-darkness that followed, shapes moved through the shadows with impossible grace. Dr. Loomis watched in fascination as figures in some kind of adaptive camouflage flowed through the space like smoke. They seemed to blend with the darkness itself, becoming visible only when they moved directly past light sources or when the projection's enhancement revealed their outlines. There, Kethavar said, pausing the projection. Do you see the one by the main door? Dr. Loomis looked closely. She could barely make out a humanoid figure that seemed to bend light around itself. The camouflage was unlike anything in the galactic database of known technologies. Watch what happens next, Kethavar continued. The projection resumed. The shadowy figure approached one of the pirate guards from behind. There was no violence, no struggle. The guard simply collapsed silently to the ground, and the figure dragged him away into the darkness. Moments later, the same figure reappeared and repeated the process with another guard. How long did this take? Dr. Loomis asked. The entire operation lasted perhaps 10 minutes, Kethavar replied. In that time, 23 pirates were removed from the cargo hold and surrounding corridors. Not killed, Doctor. Removed. When the lights came back on, there were no bodies, no blood, no evidence that they had ever been there. Dr. Loomis reviewed the projection again. The figures moved with a precision that suggested extensive training and coordination. They never interfered with each other's movements, never appeared in each other's way. It was like watching a carefully choreographed dance performed by shadows. Ambassador, were you able to get a clear look at any of these rescuers? Only one, Kethavar said, advancing the projection to a specific moment. This one passed directly under an emergency light. I got a clear view for perhaps 2 seconds. The image showed a human figure in form-fitting dark armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The person's face was covered by a helmet with advanced optical systems, but the body type and proportions were clearly human. Definitely human, Dr. Loomis confirmed. But this equipment, it's nothing like the military gear we've seen from human conventional forces. No, Kethavar agreed. This was something else entirely. The humans we've encountered before fight with heavy weapons and strong armor. These moved like they were wearing nothing at all. But I could see the technological systems built into their suits. Sensors, communications equipment, weapons that I couldn't identify. Dr. Loomis made more notes. Did any of them speak to you? Give any indication of their identity or purpose? That's the strangest part, Kethvar said, his colors shifting to a puzzled green. When it was over, when the pirates were gone and the lights were back on, one of them did approach us. Just for a moment. And he removed his helmet. Human, definitely. Young, maybe 30 of their years. Dark hair, calm expression. He looked at all of us and said, "You're safe now. Stay here until the rescue ships arrive." Then he put his helmet back on and walked away. Walked away where? Into the wall, Kethvar said flatly. Doctor, I watched him approach what appeared to be a solid bulkhead, and he simply passed through it as if it weren't there. My memory crystals recorded the entire thing. It happened exactly as I described. Dr. Loomis stared at the projection, which clearly showed the human figure disappearing into what appeared to be solid metal, some kind of advanced phasing technology. If such technology exists, the Council's scientists aren't aware of it, Kethvar replied. I submitted my memory records to the Technical Analysis Division. They concluded that either the technology involved is beyond our current understanding, or my memory crystals were somehow corrupted by unknown means. But you don't believe your memories were corrupted. Doctor, Nexari memory crystals have been completely reliable for over 10,000 years. The probability of spontaneous corruption is essentially zero. What I saw happened exactly as I recorded it. Dr. Loomis saved the projection files to her secure database. Ambassador, have you shared these memories with the other survivors? I've spoken with 12 of them, Kethvar said. Their accounts are remarkably consistent, despite the differences in their sensory capabilities and memory systems. All of them describe the same impossible movement, the same silent precision, the same advanced technology. Any of them get a better look at the rescue team? Ambassador Theiss of the Ethereal Worlds has the most complete account. Her energy-based perception allowed her to see things that visible light observation missed. According to her, the humans were using technology that manipulated local spacetime to achieve their stealth and phasing effects. Dr. Loomis's form pulsed bright orange with excitement. Spacetime manipulation? That's theoretical physics at the highest level. No species has achieved practical application of those principles. Apparently humans have, Kethvar said grimly. Doctor, I've been thinking about the implications of what we witnessed. These weren't human conventional forces using advanced equipment. This was something completely different, a level of technological capability that we didn't know existed. What do you think it means for the galaxy? Kethvar's form shifted through several colors before settling on a deep red that indicated profound concern. I think it means that every military assessment we've made of human capabilities has been completely wrong. We've been afraid of their conventional forces, their willingness to fight, their persistence in battle, but those forces operate openly, according to recognizable military principles. He gestured toward the projection, which still showed the shadowy figures moving through the cargo hold. These operate by completely different rules. They appear anywhere they want to be. They have technology that defies our understanding of physics. They can eliminate any threat without leaving evidence of their presence. And most importantly, they're clearly been active for some time without any of us knowing about it. Dr. Loomis processed this information, her form cycling through colors that indicated rapid thought. You think there have been other incidents? Doctor, think about the pattern of events that led to our rescue. The human military response came before we even asked for help. They knew exactly where we were, exactly what the threat was, and exactly how to eliminate it without harming any prisoners. Kethvar's colors darkened further. That kind of precise intelligence requires extensive observation, and Preparatio Supreme War Commander Sekthul of the hegemony of Skarthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. His forces had conquered 17 systems in the past month, expanding the hegemony's territory faster than any previous campaign in their history. The key to their success had been simple: show no mercy to civilian populations, and other species would surrender quickly rather than watch their people suffer. It was an old strategy, but effective. Commander, his intelligence officer reported, we've received confirmation that the research colony on Kepler 442b has been secured. All scientific personnel have been captured as planned. Sekthul's mandibles clicked together in approval. The research colony had been studying new forms of faster-than-light travel. Their knowledge would give the hegemony a significant advantage in future expansion. Excellent. Begin standard interrogation procedures immediately. I want their research data within the next solar cycle. Sir, the officer hesitated. The prisoners include humans. Should we modify our procedures? Sekthul turned to stare at his subordinate. Like all members of the hegemony, he was a large insectoid creature with armored carapace and multiple arms. His species had evolved as predators, and their entire culture was built around the concept of dominance through strength. Modify our procedures? For humans? His voice carried the sharp harmonics that indicated contempt. Officer, humans may be persistent fighters, but they bleed and break just like any other species. Their reputation for violence means nothing when they're locked in our detention facilities. Yes, sir. It's just that the intelligence briefings suggested. The intelligence briefings are written by cowards who see threats everywhere. Sekthul interrupted. Humans fight hard when they have weapons and ships. When they're prisoners in our custody, they're just another conquered species. The intelligence officer bowed and returned to his station. Within hours, reports began flowing in from the research colony. The human prisoners were being subjected to the hegemony's standard interrogation methods, which involved systematic torture designed to break their will to resist. For 3 days, the reports continued. The human prisoners were remarkably stubborn, refusing to provide information even under extreme duress. But the hegemony interrogators were experienced and patient. Every species broke eventually. On the 4th day, the reports stopped coming. Communications, why haven't we received the daily status update from Kepler 442b? Sekthul demanded. Sir, we've been trying to reach the colony for the past 6 hours. All communication channels are silent. Sekthul felt a slight unease but pushed it aside. Communication equipment failed sometimes, especially on newly conquered worlds where the infrastructure was often damaged during the initial assault. Send a patrol ship to investigate. Probably just a damaged communications array. The patrol ship reached the colony 12 hours later. What they found defied explanation. Sir, the patrol ship captain's voice came over the communication system, and Sekthul could hear fear in the harmonics. You need to see this yourself. Report, Captain. The colony is intact, sir. All buildings undamaged, all equipment functional, but the garrison is gone. Sekthul leaned forward in his command chair. Gone how, dead? Evacuated? Sir, they're just not here anymore. 300 hegemony soldiers, 20 interrogation specialists, 50 support staff, all missing. No signs of battle. No weapon discharge marks, no blood. They just aren't here. And the prisoners? Also gone, sir. But their cells weren't breached. The locks are still engaged. The security systems show no unauthorized access. According to all our sensors and records, the human prisoners never left their cells. But the cells are empty. Sekthul's forearms gripped the armrests of his chair. Captain, you're telling me that an entire garrison simply vanished, along with their prisoners? Sir, I'm telling you that according to every system we have, nothing happened here. All security cameras show normal activity until 0347 hours yesterday. Then nothing, not static, not damage. Just normal empty corridors and facilities. Send a full investigation team immediately. The investigation revealed details that made the situation even more disturbing. The garrison personnel hadn't just disappeared. They had been systematically removed with impossible precision. Personal effects were left undisturbed. Weapons remained in their racks. Even meals were left half-finished in the dining facilities. Most unsettling was the discovery that the base's own security recordings had been edited with surgical precision. Hours of footage were missing, but the deletions were so sophisticated that the automated systems hadn't detected any tampering. Within a week of the Kepler 442b incident, similar reports began arriving from other hegemony facilities. A forward operating base near the Centauri cluster. Entire crew missing, no signs of struggle. A supply depot in the outer rim. Personnel vanished. But all supplies left perfectly organized and untouched. Each incident followed the same pattern. Hegemony forces involved in the capture or mistreatment of human civilians would simply disappear without explanation. No battles, no invasions, no evidence of external attack. The soldiers would be there one day and gone the next, as if they had never existed. Sekthul called an emergency meeting of his senior commanders. The holographic display in the war room showed the locations of 17 separate incidents across hegemony territory. "Commanders, we face an unprecedented situation," he began, trying to keep the uncertainty out of his voice. "Our forces are being eliminated by an unknown enemy, using methods we cannot detect or counter." General Caxtool, his primary military advisor, gestured toward the display. "Supreme Commander, the pattern is clear. Only installations where we hold human prisoners are being targeted. This cannot be coincidence." "Are you suggesting that humans are somehow responsible for these incidents?" Sekthul asked. "Sir, human territory is over 100 parsecs from our nearest base. Their conventional fleets couldn't reach our positions without us detecting them weeks in advance. But something is systematically targeting our operations with perfect intelligence and impossible capability." Another general, Vextar, leaned forward. "Perhaps we should consider releasing the human prisoners and withdrawing from systems with human populations." The suggestion caused an uproar among the assembled commanders. Showing weakness was against every principle of hegemony military doctrine. "Absolutely not," Sekthul declared. "We do not retreat from conquered territory because of mysterious disappearances. We will increase security at all facilities and continue operations as planned." That decision proved to be a fatal mistake. Over the next month, the pattern of disappearances accelerated. Entire starships began vanishing from their patrol routes. Supply convoys would leave one base and never arrive at their destinations. Command centers would go silent overnight, leaving no trace of their crews. The hegemony's military might, which had seemed unstoppable just weeks before, began collapsing from within. Units refused to take assignments involving human prisoners. Soldiers deserted rather than serve at facilities where their comrades had vanished. Fear spread through the ranks faster than any plague. Most disturbing were the few survivors who were occasionally found. They spoke of shadows moving through secured facilities, of guards who simply collapsed without warning, of locked doors that somehow opened and closed without any record of access. The survivors' accounts were fragmented and contradictory, as if their memories had been deliberately edited. Sekthul found himself commanding an empire that was disintegrating through terror rather than military defeat. His forces controlled thousands of star systems and commanded millions of soldiers, but they were powerless against an enemy they could not see or fight. The final blow came when his own flagship began experiencing incidents. Crew members started disappearing from their quarters during sleep cycles. Security officers would begin their rounds and never return. The ship's most sensitive areas were found unsecured, with no explanation of how anyone could have accessed them. When Sekthul's personal guard began vanishing one by one, he finally understood that nowhere in hegemony space was safe. Whatever force was systematically dismantling his empire had reached the very heart of his power. The last transmission from the hegemony flagship was Sekthul's own desperate plea to the Galactic Council, begging for protection from an enemy he could not name or describe. He offered to release all human prisoners, to withdraw from all contested territories, to submit to any terms the Council demanded. The transmission cut off mid-sentence. When Council forces arrived to investigate 3 days later, they found the flagship drifting empty in space. Its crew of 10,000 had simply vanished, leaving behind a perfectly maintained vessel with no signs of battle or struggle. The mighty hegemony of Skarthak, which had conquered a significant portion of the galaxy through superior firepower and ruthless tactics, had been reduced to scattered refugees fleeing their own territory in terror of an enemy that struck without warning and left no trace. Intelligence analysis of the hegemony's collapse revealed a chilling truth. Every single incident had occurred within 72 hours of the mistreatment of human civilian, which means the emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called to address what historians would later call the hegemony crisis. Representatives from every major species sat in stunned silence as they reviewed the final reports from the former hegemony territories. An entire galactic empire had simply ceased to exist. Not conquered, not defeated in battle, not destroyed by internal rebellion. It had been systematically dismantled by forces that remained completely invisible throughout the entire operation. Ambassador Zefka of the Viridian Collective stood once again at the central podium, but this time her hands were steady. The fear that had motivated her previous presentations had been replaced by a cold certainty that was somehow worse. "Council members," she began, "we have reached a point where we can no longer pretend to misunderstand our situation. The intelligence reports from the former hegemony territories are conclusive. Humanity possesses military capabilities that render our previous strategic assessments meaningless." The holographic display showed a timeline of the hegemony's collapse. Over 6 weeks, an empire that had controlled over 4,000 star systems had been reduced to scattered refugees begging for sanctuary in council space. "The pattern is clear," Zefka continued. "Every incident occurred in direct response to the mistreatment of human civilians. The response was swift, precise, and absolute. No warnings were given. No negotiations were attempted. The individuals responsible for ordering or carrying out actions against human non-combatants were simply removed." Council member Vorth of the now-defunct hegemony sat in the observer section, no longer a proud military commander, but a broken refugee whose entire species lived in terror of shadows that might be watching them at any moment. "Distinguished delegates," Vorth said when given permission to speak, "I address you as someone who has witnessed the true extent of human capabilities. What we faced was not an invasion or a war. It was an extermination carried out with surgical precision by forces we could not see, could not fight, and could not understand." His voice carried the hollow tone of someone who had lost everything. "Our military doctrine was based on the principle that superior firepower and ruthless tactics would ensure victory. We believed that human conventional forces, while persistent, could be overcome through traditional strategic superiority." The display showed records from hegemony military facilities, including security footage that had somehow been edited to remove all trace of the attackers while leaving perfect documentation of the results. "We were wrong," Forth continued. "Human conventional forces were never their primary military capability. They were merely the public face of a military organization that operates at levels we cannot comprehend. Every engagement we had witnessed with human forces was them showing restraint." A murmur ran through the assembly. The concept that humanity's already terrifying military capabilities were actually restrained was almost too disturbing to process. "Ambassador," Theiss of the ethereal worlds flickered to a deep purple color that indicated profound concern. "Council member Vorth, are you suggesting that humanity has been deliberately limiting their military effectiveness in previous conflicts?" "Ambassador Theiss, I am stating with absolute certainty that humanity possesses military units that operate according to completely different principles than their conventional forces. These units appear to be unrestricted by traditional rules of engagement, undetectable by any known technology, and capable of eliminating any target regardless of defensive measures." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If humanity had been holding back in previous conflicts, then every military assessment the galaxy had made was fundamentally flawed. "The question," Zefka said quietly, "is what this means for our future relationships with humanity." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's communication system activated. The main display showed an incoming transmission request from Earth's diplomatic corps. "Council speaker," the communication officer announced, "we are receiving a request for immediate audience from Colonel Sarah Chen, representing Human Special Operations Command." The title sent a chill through the assembled delegates. This was the first time any human representative had identified themselves as being affiliated with Special Operations Forces. "Accept the transmission," the council speaker ordered. The display flickered to show a human woman in a dark military uniform that bore no visible rank insignia or unit markings. She appeared to be in her 40s, with graying hair and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of the council chamber in seconds. "Council members," Colonel Chen said without preamble, "I am here to discuss the recent events in what was formerly hegemony space." Her voice was calm and professional, but there was something underneath that made even the most powerful military commanders in the galaxy feel like children being addressed by a stern parent. "Colonel Chen," the council speaker began carefully, "we appreciate humanity's willingness to discuss these matters. The situation in former hegemony territory has raised questions about—" "Speaker, let me save us all some time," Chen interrupted. "You want to know whether human special operations forces were responsible for the elimination of hegemony military personnel who were torturing our civilians." The answer is yes. The directness of the admission stunned the assembly. No denials, no diplomatic evasions, no attempts to hide behind plausible deniability. You want to know whether we have similar capabilities deployed throughout the galaxy? Chen continued. The answer is yes. You want to know whether we will use these capabilities against other species who choose to target our non-combatants? The answer is yes, Ambassador Zefka found her voice. Colonel, are you threatening the Galactic Council? Chen's expression didn't change. Ambassador, I am informing the Council of the operational parameters under which Human Special Operations Command functions. We do not threaten. We do not negotiate. We do not issue warnings. We eliminate threats to human civilians with whatever level of force is required to ensure those threats do not recur. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Chen raised her hand and somehow the entire assembly fell silent. However, she continued, I want to be clear about something important. Human Special Operations Forces are not deployed against military targets engaged in conventional warfare, even when those targets are fighting human conventional forces. We distinguish between soldiers who follow the rules of civilized conflict and those who deliberately target civilians. She paused to let that sink in. The hegemony crossed a line when they began, systematically torturing human research personnel. Their fate was sealed the moment they decided that our civilians were acceptable targets for their interrogation methods. Council Member Vorth spoke up from the observer section. Colonel, how long have Human Special Operations Forces been active in our territories? Chen looked directly at him. Council Member Vorth, Human Special Operations Forces have been monitoring activities throughout the galaxy since shortly after our first contact with Council species. We maintain surveillance and intervention capabilities in every major system. The admission sent shockwaves through the assembly. Humanity had been conducting covert operations in sovereign space for over a decade without any of the Council species knowing about it. You've been spying on us, accused the Nexari representative. We've been protecting our interests, Chen corrected, which includes ensuring that human civilians in Council space are not subjected to treatment that violates basic standards of civilized behavior. Ambassador Thys pulsed a nervous orange. Colonel, what exactly are your operational parameters regarding Council species? Simple, Chen replied. Leave our civilians alone and you will never know we exist. Target them for violence, and you will discover that your military capabilities are irrelevant to your continued existence. The Council speaker leaned forward. Colonel, this represents a fundamental change in the balance of power in the galaxy. How do we know that humanity won't use these capabilities for conquest? For the first time, Chen's expression softened slightly, revealing something that might have been amusement. Speaker, if humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done so years ago. Every species represented in this chamber exists because we choose to allow it. Your independence, your sovereignty, your continued existence as separate civilizations, all of these things are permitted rather than earned. She stood up, and somehow the gesture made her seem larger than the massive chamber around her. The galaxy has been afraid of human persistence, human ruthlessness, human willingness to fight. But those qualities only apply to our conventional forces operating under rules of engagement, designed to limit collateral damage and preserve civilian populations. Chen's voice grew colder. Our special operations forces operate under different rules. Rules that prioritize mission success over every other consideration. The hegemony discovered what happens when those rules are applied to the protection of human civilians. How many of you are there? Ambassador Zefka asked quietly. Chen's smile was colder than the void between stars. Enough. The single word carried more threat than entire fleet movements. It suggested capabilities and resources that the galaxy couldn't measure or counter.